All right, good, man. I'm all excited to be hanging out with you, man. And I know we talked a little bit online. The first thing I wanted to mention, I thought this was sick. I had read a Decibel magazine review of you guys, and I was having trouble figuring out how in the heck I'm to describe you. I'm trying to get friends to come out to the show, and I'm like, I don't even know how to describe you. They described you guys as punk rock gone schizo, and I'm like, that's pretty close. That's pretty close. So yeah, actually, that's kind of the first thing I wanted to bring up is like. How would you describe yourself? This is coming from a strictly practical point. I'm helping out promote the show. I'm trying to get people to come out to the show. Calling it screamo is accurate, but maybe a little misleading in context of what things are now. I would have called this metalcore back in the day. That's completely misleading now, considering where that genre has gone. Sitting there listening to your guys' releases, though, the one thing I heard reoccurring, at least to me, was like melodic hardcore. It felt like melodic hardcore that had just gotten like meaner and meaner with every release. So like, yeah, how would you describe yourself if you were kind of giving the elevator pitch to somebody of what you guys are about?
I would just say that we're like a noisy hardcore band, or just like kind of, I don't know, I'm like, when people that don't know anything about the scene or like the history of hardcore and screamo and metalcore and whatever you want to call all that stuff, I just say, hey, like I play in a punk band that's super noisy, and but I'd say to people that are like have been involved in the scene a long time and stuff, I mean, I wouldn't call us a screamo band, because that's more like, to me, that kind of comes from a special place, late 90s, early 2000s, like all those bands that kind of were doing that sort of thing. There obviously, there's bands that we see that are screamo bands currently that's what they are, but I feel like with us, I haven't ever felt like an intention to be like, oh, we're like, a metalcore band, or we're this or we're that. I think like over the years of us playing together through different lineup changes and through different people that are writing in the band, it's just sort of like naturally evolved, because we started with just me and Mike, our old guitar player, with a guy named Jeff, and we didn't have a drummer, and we kind of all wrote together. Jeff wrote a lot, but we kind of had this idea to do like almost really dissonant, almost like grindy kind of emotional stuff, and just had that idea.
I definitely hear the grind in there, dude. I love, sorry to cut you off, but I love that you guys out of nowhere will just like start freaking blasting, dude.
Yeah, that was like our early kind of idea, and I mean, I was younger at the time too, so I don't know, I just had like different ideas of like, hey, I want to have a part that sounds like this or sounds like that, and then as things like evolved, Chris came into the band, and it kind of, his drumming style really, when we finally actually had like a drummer and that initial guy was able to just like write on guitars and bass with us, then it sort of evolved again, but it was always like bring a riff, we all kind of add our things to it, and then drums and vocal, and it was always like kind of stacked like that, and it was almost like too much, and it kind of evolved more and more to where then Andre joined the band for Proper Corruption, and then that definitely in that shape there was like, I would just write riffs and parts that I thought were fitting, bring them to Chris, he would kind of change the feel, and then Andre, it'd be all about kind of Andre up front, like adding
I was wondering,
that layer
I was about to ask
it.
like where along the timeline that happens, because I noticed from the first album to the second, it went from like this like more like, I don't know, more of like a punk rock vibe, and kind of, it really does sound like a lot more like melodic hardcore, but like mathy and heavy and grindy. But the second album, man, it just like noticeably took a dip. And it's not even just in your guys' song writing, it's also like in the audio quality. Like I noticed it just sounds like more metallic, like heavier and more in your face.
In Dimlet Place or Proper Corruption?
Proper Corruption.
Yeah, Proper Corruption, yeah.
And
that's
even,
when we
from
find
the third album, it's like the second album's so bleak, man, and I love that. And even at the end of the album, the way the album ends, kind of going out on like this kind of cosmic like sample, that it just kind of, I don't know, the way I felt listening to it is like, all right, now I'm alone, just the way I was at the start of the album. The album ends and I'm alone again, And then it felt like the third album just kind of picked up that same energy, but so much more mature, the third album, way more space and dynamics. And
you got to think like the process for writing the new record the distance between it. I mean, it's been 10 years.
Yeah, dude.
So
yeah.
it was just a totally different place. And all those lineup changes, and, you know, we'd tour a lot. We wouldn't put a lot of work into writing and recording. We just kind of like, I was young. I was like, you know, I got sober and then started the band, and we were just like, hey, I want to play in a hardcore band, and I just want to tour a lot and do whatever, instead of like taking the time to write. When we stopped playing after 2017, I just had tons of time to, you know, like, I didn't think we would, I wasn't even sure if we were going to play again, but when I did start writing again, Chris was in Spain, and I like was just basically sitting alone, headphones on, just writing parts, marinating on them, putting everything to a click, just like chilling with it. And then I had so much material that I marinated on, and like really thought, instead of like, oh, I want this part to be like this, I want the band to do this kind of thing, and I want to tour all. Instead, I was just like, I'm just genuinely writing stuff that I feel is like coming to me, and was just the vibe that I was feeling at the time, and then sending it to Chris. He took his time adding drum parts, like literally internationally. He would listen to the guitars on over click tracks with headphones on in his practice space, write drum parts, and we would send stuff back and forth. And that is so far from how we did everything before. We didn't do it with high production or anything. I don't know how to use any of that stuff. I just literally had a Reaper and put everything to a click, sent it, and it was a super raw, you know, we had maybe 12 to 15 kind of songs. He eventually was able to come back to the States. He had some like visa and like back and forth issues post-pandemic and stuff. So eventually he's like, hey, I could probably be there for like a month. So he came, stayed with me. We jammed a bunch of stuff out for 3 weeks, and then recorded drums, one guitar, and bass kind of like live, and captured the drums for the record. Yeah. But we took a lot of time initially in writing, or I did, like with the foundation of it. Whereas the other records and recordings, and just even the whole band, was like, riff, you know, get the drums, get the vocals, get in the van, and let's like play shows. Yeah. This was more like, I don't even know if we're going to be able to even record or play shows or get us all in the same room. So we took a lot more time, and I feel like
a much more authentic like songwriting process. Like, instead of it being like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do as a band, put this out, go on the road, blah blah blah. It's like you just felt something, man, and needed to get it out, and just started getting it out. At what point during that process, I'm thinking maybe when you got drums added, that's a pretty solid point. But at what point during that process did you feel like, all right, man, this is no longer just me in my bedroom, just like, getting this shit out, and now it's like, we should take this on the road, man, or we should put out another album, or who was the first one to bring it up, or how did that?
I think, and also the angst of the pandemic, and just putting everything into perspective, and us all getting older, and you just really thinking about it, you're like, we should just make this happen. We should make it happen. And just so, even I don't know, it was just such a different process, and such a different set of emotions, being in a position where it's so hard for us to get together, and it took so long for me to like go from me writing riffs to getting Chris in the same country as me, to getting insane. Drums tracked, to getting Mike, who now has 2 kids, to learn the guitar parts, because I didn't want to play as one guitar. In our European tour and another American tour we did with Birds, I played as one guitar player, but the new music's a lot more like mid-tempo and dynamic. I was like, Mike has to play with us. So to have all that line up was just like, you were just more like grateful to be able to do it.
You almost have to do it at that point, right? I mean, like that, for that many, that's a lot of obstacles in the way. I mean, most bands are just trying to like get their guys together once a week, or whatever, to jam or whatever, you know what I mean? You're trying to pull this off like across international lines, and during a crazy time period, during the pandemic and all that, you know what I mean? So it almost feels like this is something that had to happen, man.
Yeah, totally. So we were able to record everything last year. We did one session in Seattle, and then I flew to Oakland to finished guitars and vocals and everything, because our singer lives in San Jose. We met there and put it all together. And then once we kind of heard everything coming together, we're like, let's try to do some shows. So I mean, thinking of like comparing those early records to what this is like, it's almost like not really comparable. There was so much. At this point, I'm like, I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of the fact that we actually are able to go out and do it with families and all the traveling and all that, you know. So
how's
it's
the tour been so far, man? This has all been like mostly West Coast states. How's it been so far?
It's been awesome, and even when we thought about playing shows again, I was like, kind of want everything with us playing again. I wanted it all to be with friends and you know, try to make it as just like a friendship.
That's what's the most fun about being on the road anyways, right? Seeing people you haven't seen in, you know, years or whatever, and you know, weeks,
So Throws, we've always been homies with for years. Like, I was a huge fan of their band Bone Dance before, and then just even through with us not playing and stuff, every time Throws came to Seattle, like, they'd stay with my wife and I and everything. So
I saw you guys were at Destructive, dude. I love that venue, man. I'm friends with the owners there. I think
that guy's awesome.
3-4 episodes have been recorded over there because they're so welcoming, both to like just the community in general. They're all about it, you know what I mean? So they'll let me use their green room and stuff. I got amazing people over there. Franco and his wife, man. So it was Destructive a couple nights ago. How'd that go? Was it pretty fun out there?
It was 420 on Easter. So no one wanted to play. No one wanted to come out. But it was cool to see Ryan, because Ryan booked our band like years ago, even like 15 years ago. Like Ryan's booked our band, and so that was cool, and the space was awesome. So
it's amazing space.
It was really cool.
And Cafe Colonial tomorrow night. I love that venue, dude. That venue is legendary, man.
We played there like 12 years ago or something. It's kind of cool to be like in a totally different place in your life, and then driving back through and just, you know, like running into old friends and stuff. It's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it definitely over that amount of time, I mean, a lot changes, you know what I mean? So when you find something that's, you know, like you said, like an old friend or a venue that's still around, you know what I mean, despite the odds, you know what I mean? It feels good to come, it feels like a visiting family to me, man. Every time I go to these other venues, and, you know, these people are still keeping the flame alive, you know what I mean?
Everybody, you know, and from everything that's been going on, you know, politically and economically and everything, and you know, you have to really attach yourself to, you know, positive stuff, and the fact that we have such a strong community. You can, you know, you meet somebody a couple times and you just talk to them 10 years later and like, well, I'll book a show for you, I'll be there for you, you know, like all these things. It really sort of like brings a light back into like, holy shit, dude, like we have to keep living, and we have to.
It's caused me to double down, dude. I know exactly what you're talking about. It is awful. There's most of the shows I'm like thinking about going to do interviews or photography or whatever. Like, dude, I don't even know if I can afford it. But it's like at this point you kind of have to, though. You know what I mean? Because that's, you know, if we start shutting in and start, you know, then the venues are going to shutter up. Then, you know, you're not going to see new blood coming into the scene. You know what I mean? And there's going to, no, man, it has to keep going, man. You know, it's like it's because, you know, it's because of guys like us that have been doing it a minute and keep it going, and also because of this younger generation of kids that are just, you know, pissed as hell and don't know what to do about it. So they definitely still need that outlet, man. You know, I'm glad to be a part of it at all, man. So awesome, man. Well, this has been awesome. It's been awesome talking to you, man. I had fun listening to your discography. Like I mentioned to you earlier, it felt sick to kind of be able to listen to it as a trilogy and kind of be able to sit here and talk to you after all these years, you know, like, hey man, you know, from the beginning to the end, what's it been about, you know what I mean?
Nice.
You guys have tons of like all sorts of like cool like connections with bands that I'm super into. X Everything. I know I mentioned Early Graves too. I'm super influenced by. So to be able to talk to some of the guys that were in that sphere, you know what I mean? It's just been that was really cool too. So
yeah, we're lucky. We I don't know. We've just made a lot of really good friendships with really cool bands, and I mean that's kind of like been our thing. Like, we've never been a band that has drawn a lot of kids or anything like that, but we've met a lot of really cool people. We've collaborated with a lot of, you know, amazing bands and everything. So, you know, I mean, that's kind of what it's all about for us, you know. So, yeah, for sure.
So, man, where can people find you if they want to look you guys up online? Is it better to get a hold of you on Instagram or Facebook? Like, where can they find your music?
You just look on. I think we're on Instagram. If you just type in Mercy Ties, and you honestly, like, before, when we were an active band a lot, we weren't really big into the social media thing. I mean, literally, it's been forever. You know, what I mean? When our band was started, it was like MySpace. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, now we're starting to be like, okay, we gotta like update our Instagram. We gotta like pay attention to like, how do we do all this stuff?
No, it's hilarious because I came back into the scene a handful of years ago, and that's exactly what it was for me. I was like, now I have to learn how to use TikTok. Now I have to learn how to use Instagram. I didn't know about hashtags. I didn't know about the algorithm, all these strategies and stuff. I just played music, man. And now you gotta be a video content creator, and you gotta be a promoter, and you gotta be, you gotta wear a lot of hats these days, man. So it's definitely a steep learning curve coming back into it and trying to get back on the road and get things out.
Ghost is Clear Records has reflections and criticisms available, and we have Bandcamp, Spotify.
Incredible fucking album. I can't
appreciate it so much.
Going to listen to that as soon as possible. That album's amazing, man, start to finish.
Thanks so much.
And
I
that's
really appreciate it.
It was a solid album where you can put it on from the beginning and let that thing run through, man. That's definitely you can definitely feel the intimacy and the authenticity in what you guys in this new recording. And as I mentioned earlier, I love the added dynamics. You know what I mean? The second album was so just like pummeling and pissed. You know, this one has that in there, but still just allows things to breathe. I feel like, you guys definitely matured and kind of as songwriters.
Appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, man.
Appreciate it.
Great talking to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me a little bit of time, man. I can't wait to catch you guys, man. This is gonna be a sick set. Gonna be a good night, man.
It's awesome, man.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Good talking with you.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Cool.
Hell yeah, dude.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, that was fun.
We must endure. These are the cost of one day.